Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's now 3:29 in the afternoon, and we are ready to start. Welcome, everyone, to this session organized by the PAREF Chaplaincy Office and Catalyst for Catechists. And so, to start, I think it's good to hear from our one of our organizers. I'd like you to please welcome our head chaplain in PAREF, Father Carlos Estrada.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon also, Father Wenceslao Vial. Thank you for accepting this invitation to speak to us this afternoon. Maybe just a brief background as to why this conference online was organized. Well, it's because in the course of visiting different schools, specifically those of PAREF or here in the University of Asia and the Pacific, where I also am head chaplain, and in discussion with other clergy of the Diocese of Pasig, one of the concerns has been precisely the cases of young people committing suicide, and even just recently also, perhaps a few even adults who have resorted to that. And and yes, it is indeed a concern. Of course, we can think of different possible reasons why they even attempt it or do it, but nonetheless, we thought maybe better if we have something like this, at least to introduce us into the reality of the situation. Hopefully, we can eventually do something about this on whatever level we have in the different schools, and thus help at least make people aware and perhaps to have that early intervention. So, without further ado, let me pass you back to Man, who will introduce the speaker this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Father Cayo.
Come.
And we are so fortunate to have a very prominent speaker joining us today to talk about the session. He is speaking live from Spain because although he is really based in Rome, he's a professor of psychology and the spiritual life, as well as the psychology of personality and spiritual direction at the Faculty of Theology of the Pontifical University of the Holy Cross in Rome. As a surgeon in the University of Chile, Doctor of Philosophy from the Holy Cross, and priest ordained in the year 2000. He combines his clinical knowledge and academic work with extensive pastoral activity across different countries and cultures. Is the author of The Anthropology of Viktor Frankl and Psychological and Spiritual Maturity. Ladies and gentlemen, my honor to present to you our esteemed speaker, Father Wenceslao Vial.
Okay. Thank you very much, Man, and all of you for having me. I will speak about a very important topic, and I will do it with a presentation. So let me allow me to put this in the screen. Okay. So probably you are now seeing the presentation. I want to start with the case of a teenager who engages in self-harm, and then I will give a brief overview to leave room for your input and questions. So this is the case in order to speak about prevention of self-harm and suicide, and how to go after this with hope. So one day, this is the case, Kesia is the name of the mother, Kesia, Anastasia's mother, noticed that her 14 years old daughter is wearing a long-sleeved sweater in the middle of summer. She asks her about it, but the girl refuses to answer. Then the mother discovers the scars from cuts on her arms. After that, the girl ran to her room and locked herself in for several hours. Although Kesia, the mother, was very worried, the next day she chose to ignore the situation. When she tried to talk to her husband about it, Hermenegildo was the name of the father, reacted angrily, saying he had enough problems at the office and blaming her, the mother, reproaching her for insisting years ago on having another child and then stormed out of the house. Kesia turns to Paula, the head teacher for the class at school. Paula asks for more details, feeling somewhat guilty because she had noticed strange behavior in Anastasia some time ago. Kesia explains that Anastasia had never caused problem at home. She was shy and well behaved, but as the teacher also knew, since starting secondary school, she had become more withdrawn. Her grades had dropped and she had few friends. Kesia also shares that Anastasia's relationship with her father is poor. He's hardly ever home and shows no affection. Kesia herself argues a lot with her husband and has even been physically hurt by him, and in those moments, Anastasia was the only one who came to her to comfort and help her. Anastasia's relationship with her two brothers isn't bad, but it's distant. The boys are almost always out of the house, escaping the tense atmosphere at home. Kesia confides that she is terrified Anastasia might attempt suicide, and she feels anxious and compelled to control and monitor her. She can't help feeling guilty and doesn't know whether to be stricter with Anastasia or fear being manipulated by her. After listening, Paula explains that the causes of self-harm are very complex and that Kesia shouldn't jump to conclusions. There have been other cases at school. She encourages Kasia not to feel guilty, to try to maintain open and trusting communication with her daughter without anger or reproach. She also advises involving the whole family as much as possible, consulting a mental health specialist right away, and assures her that the school will activate specialized support. Kesia thanks her for the advice, feeling calmer, and Paula immediately goes to speak with the school principal. We know a few details now from Anastasia. She is the youngest of the sibling, the only girl, shy and well behaved, but increasingly withdrawn. The parents' relationship is deteriorated, even with episodes of physical aggression, and the teacher, with calm, reminds the mother that the causes of behavior like Anastasia's are complex, advises her not to feel guilty, to improve communication with her daughter, and to seek mental health support. The school will also activate its resources. The most urgent steps are these. No? The mother should consult a mental health professional as soon as possible, and the school should involve its specialist. While reassuring the mother, we must not underestimate the risk. Anastasia is suffering deeply, and the family situation likely contributes to her behavior, which could worsen the home environment. Immediate action is needed, even if there is no clear suicidal intent yet. This really had not been explored, and it's important to address it. We also lack information about what is happening at school. There could be bullying or other issues. As I said, we will look at 3 topics: what adolescence is, what self-harm indicates, and the measures for prevention. Other ideas will surely come up and that can also be considered in similar cases. So first point, understanding adolescence. Adolescence is not a fixed period of time, but we can say it usually occurs between the age of 12 and 19, sometimes even longer. It's the stage when young people begin to think for themselves and develop a life plan, in the words of Swiss psychologist Piaget. Manzoni's description in the Italian novel Promessi Sposi, the betrothed, of a young religious girl with struggles captures the key elements of adolescence. So he wrote, she was entering that dangerous age when it seems that a mysterious force entered the soul, stirring, beautifying, and enlivening every inclination, every idea, and sometimes transforming them and leading them to take an entirely unexpected course. Dr. Daniel Siegel, professor of psychiatry at UCLA School of Medicine, and a neurologist specializing in adolescence, defines adolescence as an emotional spark, a time of social connection, of seeking novelty, and of creative essence. In addition to the well-known physiological changes, there are significant changes in the brain. What are the expected attitudes in teenagers? Are more or less these, no? Moodiness, so bad mood or good mood, emotional changes, self-image and body image concerns, difficulty concentrating, conflicts with parents and adults, authority issues, experimenting with alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes, increased risk-taking behaviors, idealism, interest in sexuality or experimentation, some way with sexuality, feeling stressed by everyday decisions, desire for more privacy, interest in technology and social media, disorganization, and sleep disturbance. What are the concerning attitudes? So this one was the normal one, but there are signs of concern also. So severely altered moods, thoughts of self-harm, social isolation, obsession with body image, inability to complete tasks, physical or verbal aggression toward parents or running away from home, drug abuse or dealing with drugs, cyberbullying as a victim or perpetrator, sexual promiscuity, withdrawal from family, excessive computer use, online gambling, or inappropriate content to see in the computer, staying up all night, for example, connected to screen. One important point to remember is that the peer group is the boat or the lifeboat that carries the child from the shore of childhood to the shore of adulthood. So this raises the question, what is Anastasia group like? Her friends, her class at school. And with this, we will pass to the second point, what self-harm indicates. Self-harm signals deep inner suffering that needs to be addressed. It's very important to address this kind of suffering. the pain is so intense that the person prefer to feel strong physical pain instead of this psychological pain. It reflects an ambivalent feeling about the desire to die and profound hopelessness, with a marked difficulty in tolerating life as it is. It's a high risk behavior that often precedes suicidal acts. Self-harm can appear in personality disorders accompanied by low self-esteem, loss of meaning in life, extreme mood swings, and impulsivity, such as borderline personality disorder. There are also usually some family problems that is, like in this case, involved in the whole. That's why therapy often needs to include the family, since it affects everyone. Well, are cuts on the arms harmless? Really, no. They can arise from an intense, unbearable emotion that the teenager cannot stop or fully understand. Partly because the brain of a teenager is not yet fully developed for that kind of reasoning. Often there is not intention to die, nor even to cause harm. It's simple, uncontrolled impulsivity. Self harm falls within the suicidal spectrum. It can lead to impulsive and irrational acts, and sadly, to unintentional death. The spectrum of suicidal behavior includes these elements: self injury, suicidal thoughts, suicidal planning, suicide attempts, and suicide. Risk factors are personal, in the family, and in the environment. Characteristics that increase the likelihood of suicidal thoughts or behavior are this kind of risk. The risk of taking one's life rises in adolescents with high emotional vulnerability, plus many other things. No? In critical situations, they often experience the high emotional vulnerability means that mm, in critical situations, in many critical situations, they experience intense suffering and tend toward impulsive behaviors. If this vulnerability is combined with stressors such as academic pressure, family conflicts, or emotional issues like breakup or fights with friends, the possibility of suicidal behavior increase. We can group personal risk factors into 7 points. So, mental health disorders such as bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, alcohol or drug use, history of bullying or cyberbullying, violence or social isolation, family problems, abuse, lack of support, network, death of a loved one, or breakup of a romantic relationship. Then parental separation, poor academic performance or behavioral problems at school, very negative moods and feelings such as hopelessness, irritability, extreme mood swings, joy, anger, or sadness, and impulsivity. And then the seventh, family history of psychological disorders, suicides, or suicide attempts by a close relative or significant figure. In summary, it's essential to validate the person's suffering, to recognize and accept that they are in pain, even if we don't see the causes of or agree with them. This means showing with our whole body, I understand you, I care about you. What you feel makes sense. Ask open-end question, not, for example, what's wrong with you? But I see you are hurting. How can I help you? This is active or empathetic listening, very important. Giving priority to the person's ability to express emotions, concerns, hopes without fear and in a safe way. Adolescents, due to their stage of development, may be less communicative and more introverted many times. That's why we need to be more available to listen to them both at home, at school, or as a priest. Be kind, don't interrupt, show genuine interest, put aside other distractions like the phones. When talking to them, avoid reacting with shock or judgment, such as saying, trying to get attention again, or don't use, it's important, don't use phrases like, it's not so bad. Stop being silly, or others have it worse. Instead of this, we need to show what the teenager says makes sense in some way. A mother, also a teacher, might say, for example, I am the mother, no? I am your mom. You can trust me. I want to see you happy. It might be hard to feel we don't value you. I understand that being left out of that party makes you feel lonely. The goal is to listen without judgment. If the teenager shares what's happening, reinforce what good it is that they spoke up, and make an initial risk assessment. Ensure that they are not alone. Check if an adult is present, etc. We need to empathize with the adolescents' way of interpreting things and use body languages that convey closeness, affection, and understanding. The third and the last point is something about preventive measures. I will briefly list some ideas that can help parents, but also schools or priests. In Anastasia's case, it was her mother who noticed what was happening, but it could have been a teacher. And of course, we should never wait until self-harm occurs. Any suffering detected in young people must be addressed with creating a protective environment at school and at home. Identify adolescents at higher risk and get to know families and peer groups what is happening. A key to prevention is joint work among parents, relatives, guardians, the school community, and public health service. Another preventive measure, or inside of this, is using positive reinforcement. Praise and reward when they speak up about their suffering or ask for help. When they arrive to you asking for help, so praise, reward them. Rewards can be simple, listening with them music, the music that they like, enjoying a favorite snack, etc. Always be welcoming. Do not reward self-harm, as this could reinforce the behavior with automatic thought like, if I hurt myself, they care about me and pay attention to me. Then, reduce psychological pain. Understanding and compassion help ease it. Suggest practices that support emotional regulation, for example, applying ice to the cheeks when there is a state with a very high anxiety. Doing physical exercise, breathing slowly, as this change body physiological and improve emotional state. We need to enter the emotional world of the person who suffer. Put a name in emotions. What do I feel and what is called? Understand adolescents' needs. Independence, gratification, pride, feeling loved. They are the main one. Help them understand changes in the body, in the brain, emotions, and behavior. Teenagers do not yet have fully developed brain areas for impulse control and emotional regulation. They need adults' support and good role models. Then, how to advise the mother and the teacher? I would summarize it in these points. So, active listening, as I explained. Do not ignore the situation, it's very important. Ask open ended questions, not what's wrong with you, but I see you hurting, how can I help you? Active listening is, as we said, empathetic, understanding and validating the person's emotions. Seek support from the school community, contact a doctor or health professional, and then professional help, because professional help produce calm and redirect emotion. Of course, the priest, also the chaplain in the school or in the university can help. Family is essential. In the no, so finally, not family. Finally, it's essentially. This is what I wanted to say. It's essential to break myths and learn how to ask about possible thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Sometimes, or many times, people think that asking might give ideas about suicide, but that is not true. You don't need to be a specialist to talk about these issues. Anyone can help prevent them without turning it into an interrogation. Opening a dialogue about feelings and emotion is a protective and preventive factor. Research shows that these questions bring relief, encourage sharing, and foster understanding. Conclusion: you are not alone. This is what we need to say to the people that ask for our help. This is the title of the Radar program. In Spanish, Red de Adolescentes con Riesgo. So, Network for At-Risk Adolescents from the University of Los Andes in Chile. So, the nets, the networks, the support groups are essential. Sometimes called school coexistence programs, school counseling, psychological support, well, whatever the name may be. Never, it's important, never underestimate any sign. We must learn to detect warning signals, self-harm, or even just the thought of it is already part of what is called the suicidal spectrum. We need to know how to ask questions that bring relief and seek help from specialists. I would like to end by reading a letter published by a few days ago in a Chilean newspaper. It was written by a young doctor, one of my nieces, commenting on a measure being considered in Chile these days for the subway. The measure is trying to install barriers to protect the train tracks. And the letter, and this is the last slide, is this one. Dear editor, in recent days, we have painfully witnessed how suicide continues to touch so many lives. The subway barriers are necessary physical protections, but they do not reach what truly hurts: loneliness, exhaustion, hopelessness. We need much more than barriers. We need a network of care that supports people to look around more, to be kinder and more generous, attentive and grateful, to live aware that life is fragile and precious. A word, a message, a sincere "How are you?" can make a difference. To talk about mental health without stigma, and to seek or offer professional help when needed. Barriers can prevent attempts, and perhaps today each of us can be someone's invisible barriers. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Father Wense. We open now the floor for questions. You
Okay.
may post your question in the chat box. I hesitate to turn on the unmute capability because there are too many of us. There are 130 of us here, and then another 20 plus in following in YouTube. And so it might be too messy if I turn on the unmute uh,
Mhm,
facility. Father Kayo has a question here. Some young girls, this is the question, Father Wensek. Some young girls have come to him saying that they have suicidal thoughts or have seriously attempted suicide. Father Kayo asks them about their background and family, and he observes that everything seems to be okay, but they do not seem to see any future for themselves. Can you comment on this?
mhm. Okay, so many times, as you say, there's not a lot of problem in family, but in the environment, probably there are problems at school, etc. But the task of Father Cayo is mainly to listen, and to give a lot of importance of what he is listening. So then perhaps to address to a professionalist one. That is very important to address these people and also the teenagers to a professional. So we can listen them with an active listening, trying to empathize with them. So asking, for example, but what do you think about your feelings? Are you feeling bad for something special? Do you think that God don't love you? Do you think that the people close to you don't love you? How can I help to you? But after this, many other questions, try to put this young girl in a safe environment. So ask with her parents, ask with the people in the school, put probably in many schools today, there are specialists there. So a team of psychologists and doctors that can address more professionally this kind of thoughts. These kind of thoughts are important, are important. So also one thing that I tried to explain before is to give this girl that came to speak in a some way so a prize, an award. So for example, so saying how good is for you to speak about this. I am very happy that you are speaking about this. Let now try to understand more deep your feelings, your emotions. How can we change this? And there enter the thing that I spoke before. For example, to put ice in cheek can reduce emotions, because in teenagers emotions are very high levels. So in order to reduce, there are many things: to listen music, to go for a walk. So address these kind of things also, and also to pray and to feel that there is a God who loved you and is walking with you. If the girl is a believer, this also help. Mm. Okay, this is more or less, sorry for my English, that is very difficult to me to speak in this language. But anyway, we are trying.
Thank you, Father.
You're welcome.
Yes, there are now a number of questions in the chat
Okay.
box. Let's start with the one of Fiel. I'm not sure if this is Father Fiel. Considering, he asks, considering that many students experience a crisis of meaning, purpose, or connection when dealing with suicidal ideation, how can we, as educators and counselors, best support the development of their internal spiritual resources, regardless of their religious background, to foster hope and resilience?
Okay, so I think that the first point is try to prevent. So to speak openly in the school about the meaning of life, about the what adolescence means. So what kind of feeling they are now having, how to manage this before the problem starts. So starting to speak about these things um, very so in the first years, not in the first years of school, but in the first years of a teenagers, speak about the things openly. Then with this kind of things happen, well, you need to put a lot of hope. But hope is to think that there is something ahead. So the main hope really is the hope in eternal life. So also in order to see all the people or the girl or the friend that is now not with you because pass away, because perhaps with a suicide, to see them, to see this girl, see this friend in heaven. This is also something very important. To hope in the that there is a God who is very close to you. The human hope that there is a lot of people that care about you. And to show this kind of emotion that you feel for the people is very important. So in the school, the teachers, the priest, the classmates need to show more affection among them. There is related this kind of things with the path of hope that we need to discover, the new path of hope that we need to discover in schools. Pope Lyon speak about this in his last Leo, in his past document about education. So there are many things that we can do, but speak openly about these things is also very important. Okay,
Thank you, Father.
more or less.
There's a very interesting question. You mentioned about referring, for example, a student to specialists like psychologists or psychiatrists. How do we convince a person who does not, in fact, think he or she needs it? Um, there's denial, maybe, or as you mentioned earlier, perhaps a stigma that if a person is referred to a psychologist, psychiatrist, uh, he's abnormal. And so there's that
So
reluctance. Yeah.
yes, it's important, really. We need to destroy the idea of stigma. So we need to speak openly about psychology because it's very important. And with this person, we need to try to make him or her discover that he or she is suffering. So we want to take out the suffering of other people with many in many ways. So speaking openly about suffering. So, for example, saying to him or her, you are suffering because you don't need or you don't have a meaning in your life, or perhaps you have a feeling of low self-esteem. You feel that you are not like the others, but these kind of feelings are very frequent in people of your age. I can try to help you, but if you speak with a professionalist, a professional, he or she can help you more. There are also books that explain this. I spoke about Radar, this network in Chile that is very interesting in a university called Los Andes. But there are many programs like this, for example, programs called Road to Resilience. Resilience is very important, but resilience means to let yourself transform by hope. Put a new meaning into what happened, it's happening or happened in the past, and look ahead. But for this, you need the help of an adult. Perhaps for this is also very important to explain more these things in the school. So all the teachers in a school today need to know some things related with this. So how they can approach to a teenager that come and tell them something about self-harm or suicidal thoughts.
Okay. Well, Father, I think 90% of our participants today are actually teachers, many of them mentors. And the question here is if a student, a mentee, says, I have thoughts of harming myself, but don't tell my parents, don't tell anyone. How do we handle this?
Well, really, the parents need to know about this. Need to
Mhm.
know. You don't have in this case, you don't have the duty to not tell the parents things like this. No, to need to speak mainly with the kids, no, so the girl of the or the boy, no. But then you need to speak openly with others. You don't have a special secret duty about these things. Mainly, you need to let the girl or the boy that is very important not close herself or himself in this kind of thoughts and give them like an award. No, so okay, it's very good, but we need to speak with your family. We need to speak with with a specialist trying to say this smiling openly and explaining that this is very frequent and they will feel very better at the end of all these things, no, trying to speak openly many times with them. Okay.
Okay,
also
great.
addressing also addressing the psychological team of the school. That is important to have a psychological team in a school.
Mhm. There's a question from Sister Evangeline. How can culture of care, mindfulness practice, psychological flexibility be incorporated in school curriculum aside from the usual body system, teacher accompaniment, and mental health formations, emotional regulation skills as early as preschool?
Yes, it's very interesting to put these kind of things in the core project of the school and teach this kind of thing. But thinking, you mentioned mindfulness. No? So mindfulness is to put your conscience your in the main point of your life. So to clear focus your mind in the most important things. And for a Christian, the most important idea is there is a God who loved me, who walked with me. So this is a Christian mindfulness. But then also all the things related with sport, with attention. How important is attention? Not having too much time in screens or in telephone. That the telephone are very dangerous, really, for kids and for teenagers. In many schools over the world, and probably also there are prohibited in the school. But also we need to speak about how to use the phone in a proper way, how to use the screen in a proper way, because this can allow you the proper mindfulness and the proper attention to the nature, to the others. Also, there is a very interesting thing. So try in the school to put the people together so that they can interact more, to have more friends. Remember that the lifeboat of a teenager is the the group, the peer groups. The peer groups are very important. So to enter this group, the classmate, the friends, and well, go with them for a walk in nature without phone. Try to discover with them the 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 true love. To speak openly about love, about human love, is very important. Unfortunately, many related case related with suicidal thoughts or suicidal attempts are related with sexuality dimension. Today is normal because it's a very important dimension of us. So to speak about the things in a human way, with hope, showing them how nice is true love that is not doing sex.
Okay, thank you for that, Father. Here's the next
Sure.
question. There are instances when students disclose their current mindsets, especially thoughts of serious self harm, to their trusted adults in school. And then, when this is brought to the attention of the parents or the family, they're very dismissive and refuse to believe. What can we do? How can the school teachers address this? How can we get the parents to um, be on board?
Okay. Perhaps the first point is to focus, in this case, in the kid. But then, well, try to call the family to the school, or speak openly about this, give something to read about this kind of things. For example, it's interesting to have some kind of book, some kind of a guide, speaking about these things in the network. Rather, in Los Andes University, they have a very interesting book, easy to read. That is nice to give this for parents. So read it, or also perhaps doing lectures about this topic with parents. Always with hope, always speaking about good things, but not leaving aside the bad aspects of our life. So there is a risk, and today, as you know perfectly, the suicide attempts in young people are very high, from and are going up and up from the starting with smartphone. So smartphone, unfortunately, are very related with this kind of things, without doubt. Without doubt. So also speak about these things with parents is important. What is the age in which the boys or the girls need to have an iPhone? So the iPhone is like to give someone a knife. So it's very dangerous, very dangerous. And then also try to discover how to help family to be more together, to speak more about themselves, parents with children among themselves, etc. So it's not easy, but it's important.
Great. Well, we have really so many questions here in the chat box, and we're running out of time. Let me maybe just down to the last two questions. Here's a confidential question. um, and I need to hide the identity of the person who asked it. But here's a question, Father. It's quite long. We are a family of four, two daughters. We serve the church to do music. However, I see that the youngest is now rebellious and even likes the same sex. I saw her conversations. I tried to talk to her and even took her gadget, but it was hard for her. She even had tried to or showed some suicidal tendencies. However, recently, she excelled academically and even in sports. We support her in those aspects, but we never support her affection towards the same sex. It is a great issue to our family. I don't know how to handle her anymore. I always spoke to her and remind her we are religious, we pray the rosary and the liturgy of the hours, but I just don't know how this happened. Please help. That's the question.
Well, this issue could be another talk or reading a whole book, no? But the main important thing is what probably you are doing. So to show affection. I am your mom. I am your daughter. To to have more time with them, more quality time with them. So go abroad, go for a trip, uh, etc. So listen or seeing a movie with them. Try to put also this in the context of the school. So the school can help a lot in this kind of things. Also, the family is not alone. Uh, Giving perhaps a book to your daughter, but encourage her, try to really show affection to her in many things, and try to give good advices in order to pray, but not too much. Remember that in the adolescence there is always some kind of rebellion, so we need to take it as a normal thing, rebellion. About the sex attraction, well, in the adolescence, the sex attraction, the sex dimension, the sexuality dimension is something that is starting to live with more strength. Then, well, we need to wait. We need to help more in other aspects to to put very clearly that you are a spiritual being. So spiritual being mean sexuality is not a more important dimension. You need to foster relationship with friends, with boys and girls. You need to foster also interest in sport, in in so in seeing good art, etc. So trying to give the girl to the reality that she is seeking for beauty, truth, and uh, sorry, wait a moment. So belleza, verdad, and beauty. So beauty, truth, beauty and truth. These are more important things, really, that we are seeking for, and the goodness. So the goodness. So I'm asking her, do you think that you are seeking really the truth in all your life, the beauty in all your life, the goodness of all the thing that you are seeking for? Hmm? And put this in example. So how beautiful is human love? How beautiful is procreation? How beautiful is nature? How beautiful are the others? How beautiful is to help the people in need, the needy. Okay, more or less,
Okay.
this is the way that you can approach.
Yes, thank you, Father. Well, there are
You're
so
welcome.
many other questions, but we don't have time anymore. Um, but most of the questions are really geared towards the idea of they want to do something. We all want to do something. The schools know that they need to do something. Teachers know they need to do something. Where do we start? What should be our top priority in addressing this? Because I think it is a real concern happening everywhere. I mean, um, rich and poor, public schools, private schools, even schools that give intensive formation. But we are confronted with this crisis. Where do we begin, Father?
Okay, so this is a new map of hope, that in the school you need to put a new map of hope, starting perhaps with a team. So making a team of teachers and perhaps some parents or experts think together and put a special team that can help in this kind of issues. Perhaps this is a good idea. So um, speak with experts how to put this in practice, how to have, for example, a guide, a normal guide, very simple guide, in order to take these issues as many other with a professional approach. Professionals in this are very important. But then in the school, try to put an environment of um, of community that are all going together. Unfortunately, the school systems are very oppressive in many places and put the kids in a sort of high stress that is not good. But if you can give them more opportunities to seek beauty, truth, and well, all the other things nice in life, well, this is good and can help. So start perhaps for creating a team that can address this issue with in a professional way.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, we don't have time anymore. But last things, Father, I think we need to have a separate session altogether on sex, sexuality, same-sex attraction, gender issue, because it's another major concern of many teachers and schools. But before we let you go, Father, can you give us top two or three books that you can recommend for us to explore, to get hold of, if we want to go more deeply into this topic? Top of mind books that you can, materials that you can recommend for us, aside from your website, of course, right? You have a website.
Yes, yes. Well, I recommend you mainly perhaps this website that is called Psychological Maturity, that we
Mhm.
are putting there a lot of material, really many books also, and perhaps you can start with this. So psychologicalmaturity.com, and you discover many issues also in the part of fact. So frequently asked question, you have many things there with links to other related with sexuality,
Okay.
from the psychological point of view, that you can go there and check and ask questions also directly to the website if you have, and we can try to answer.
Fantastic. Well, we've come to the end of our session today, and we are really so grateful, Father Wense. We look
Direct.
forward to seeing you in Manila, right? We're working on being able to get you here to be with us for some days, for
Excellent.
more intensive sessions. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We invite you to turn on your screen for our um, pictorial. Let's see. And I have already posted in the chat box the link to claim your certificate. And if you have other questions, you can also post it there in that Google form. and I promise to pass on to Father Wense the whatever question you may have, and if he will have the time to be able to answer as many of them, then I'm sure he will do so. Okay, we invite you to turn on your screen and three, two, and smile. We go to page two in three, two, and one. Smile. In page three, we're 5 pages, page four, and finally page five. Okay, for those of us following in YouTube, I'm going to flash on screen the QR code, which you can scan to be able to get to the Google form, fill it up, and you're going to receive your certificate of participation to an international seminar. Thank you again, everyone. And Father Wenceslao, Vial, we are so grateful that you found time. Now I think you need to take breakfast. You came straight from your morning mass, and now it's time for you to have your breakfast. Thank you so much, and
Thank you to you.
everyone. We wish you all the luck. We hope to see you again in some of our other future sessions. Thank you, Father Carlos Cayo Estrada of the Chaplaincy Office of PAREF for
You're
making this
welcome.
happen. And see you all in our other future seminars. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Bye.
also. Thank you.